Welcome all.
Ah!
Welcome to another episode of the IAMKAYPEE podcast, episode 31, and I am joined with my sometimes co-host, Laura Hope.
Sort of like a third of a host or something. Less than a co-host, but
You're a semi-host.
a semi-host. Yeah,
2 seconds.
a demi-host.
Sorry, just so we don't have any technical issues.
We hate technical issues. Whoops. Good.
It's so unprofessional.
It's terrible. It's shocking. I expect a better, better professionalism.
Professionalism is... That's what I asked for, to quote The Office.
Very good.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get my...
Hair is pretty? Yes,
Okay.
They're already pretty. So should I crack open this beer?
Yeah,
Which
unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
well, not unfortunately, because we have to try new beers, but
Yeah.
we're not sponsored unofficially not sponsored by Punk IPA this time. So
So we're sharing one beer because our host is doing healthiness during the week, and I'm very much not. So he's deigns to let me convince him to have half a beer this evening, and it's a hell of a half beer. It's got a moose fighting a bear on the front, which I think is always a good sign.
it's a very good sign.
And it's called Not Your Buddy Guy, and I'm
which
really
is
excited.
obviously Canadian.
It's
themed.
obviously it's supposedly it's by Stewart Brewing, and it's a Canadian breakfast stout.
Where did you find it?
In Vino Wines, one that there's one near my work. And she laughed at me because I got this and I got the grapefruit Schifferhofer, which is like a 2% fruit beer, and then this, so you couldn't get more opposite.
They have
basically
to bring it like from the back for you because they're like, you can only be Canadian to ask for it.
Hey, it's made by Scottish people, so it's postmodern.
So Canadian people then.
So, yeah, basically. But yeah,
Scottish people are just proto-Canadians.
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking with my
I'm on your evolutionary tree.
Oh, so you're like a worse version of me,
No,
almost.
well, we don't have to say that.
We wouldn't like to qualify anything.
Ooh.
Ooh.
The only thing about these cups is when you pour it, like the foam.
Yeah, and then it's
doesn't
really
stop,
hard to
yeah.
tell how much you've poured as well. But I think this is a hearty beer. It needs a hearty cup. So
We also have our little, what would you call them?
mascots, totems, even.
Yes.
Yes.
I have a little rubber ducky Viking, and Laura obviously has her trash panda.
Trash panda. So the little rubber ducky Viking comes from the Vikings exhibition at the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto, where I just was, and the little raccoon comes from my parents for Christmas. So
I thought they just kidnapped you, shrunk you, and then sent me your body in the mail.
well, that's super creepy. So thanks for that.
I'm excited to taste this.
Me too. I think it's going to be probably kind of not our style at all, but probably really nice anyway.
And is this a Scottish company?
It is, yes.
Mm.
I don't know where they're.
So yeah, I'm trying to keep off the beer during the week, as I had managed to do that when Laura was away in Canada recently. And I'm not a big drinker during the week, but if we're both in, obviously we end up just having beer, then wine. Then
And I'm literally a professional drinker. It's like partly my job to try different stuff, basically.
Okay.
All right, skål.
Skål. So the proof's in the pudding.
It actually looks and tastes a bit like pudding.
Wow. Oh my god.
Oh boy! Oh, that is exactly the kind of beer that should have animals fighting on it.
It tastes like a Coca-Cola float.
It does, or like a coffee with like sugar in it, but cold, like a nitro coffee. I quite like that, but I could not drink actually more than this half can of it. Otherwise, I think my hair would stand straight up, and I also wouldn't be able to get to sleep for like 3 weeks.
People are just gonna get sick of listening to this, and all I do is drink on this podcast.
Yeah, well,
Maybe that's just gonna be
I think
my
it's
thing.
part of the charm.
Maybe that'll just be my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how
This,
many other British podcasts have you seen with people drinking in it?
It's heaven forbid we should associate alcohol with Britain. That certainly isn't a thing already.
No.
Especially Scotland.
It's Britain and more Scotland.
More Scotland.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this is great, yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
Mhm.
It's Those ingredients could equally be those of a dessert.
Yeah, it tastes really good.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Thanks, Stuart Brewing.
Who would win in a fight between a moose and I assume it's a grizzly bear.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, bears are sharper, but mooses are really big.
Well, have you seen their antlers, bears?
That's
Your bear antlers.
I have not seen the antlers of bears.
Have you
no.
never seen a bear with antlers?
I've never seen a bear with antlers.
He smited his enemy, the moose, so he then wears his antlers
Ow.
like a sort of token of
Well,
war.
that would be a very scary animal.
Yeah.
I guess if the bear
Imagine
was...
if a bear did have antlers.
That would be really scary. Mother Nature was like, nah, too real. I think if the bear was driving a car, the moose would win, because if you hit a moose in a car, you're definitely going...
I don't think that's how you take out moose. Like,
well, it wouldn't work
that's a
because the moose would
byproduct.
definitely take you out. But I'm just saying, if they happened to encounter each other whilst the bear was driving a car, I think the moose would win.
yeah.
But otherwise, I assume
But moose are huge.
they are huge, but grizzlies are huge as well.
But not in the same way that, well, I've not seen a moose or a bear up close, and you have.
The last time I saw a moose up like really close, I was quite wee, so it's sort of hard to gauge. But yeah, they're super huge.
It was
moose
a
are.
literal mouse.
It was
It
a
was
mouse.
a literal mouse.
It was a wee.
That
It was
was-
the mouse from Scrooge with the little antlers.
That's why it seems so large.
No, they're super really big though. They're like straight up prehistoric megafauna.
Yeah.
And if people have seen like deer and think moose are like big ones of those, like no, those are elk.
Yeah.
Moose are huge. But I still, bears are fast. People never know how fast bears are, but they can run like as fast as a horse over a short distance. So I assume they're faster than moose. Moose probably have more endurance. I don't know.
If you're escaping on horseback, you may or may not be safe.
That's true.
If
If you're a
it's over a
moose.
field. If you're escaping on a moose, then you may or may not be.
It's like moose can't climb trees. Bears can, but moose can probably eat trees. So just
Is
nom
this a
nom nom
process?
nom.
Is this your sort of?
I'm just trying to
math?
work through different scenarios in which,
But bears could probably eat a tree if it wanted to.
yeah,
There's
maybe.
nothing stopping it.
Yeah. I feel like they're all pretty
Probably
cranky.
more effective as well with their sort of sharper teeth.
Yeah, maybe.
Totally.
I feel like bears are basically secret wusses and they'd rather have like blueberry pies and whereas moose are like, yeah, I'll
Are
eat
you
this rock.
anthropomorphizing
I
these
know.
animals?
Yes, I absolutely am.
So you just think they turn up and they're saying, "Oh, what about the picnic basket?"
Yeah, it's just Yogi Bear, but it like grizzly Yogi Bear. That
Yogi
would be
Wuss.
funny. Yogi Wuss.
And the blueberry pie.
I'd love to see a version of Yogi Bear where Yogi is a grizzly bear and is just as like immensely huge and dangerous.
I think if I've seen like on possibly Family Guy or South
Yeah.
Park where they do that, they do like a realistic version of Yogi. And he basically kills and eats Boo Boo for his picnic basket.
Yeah, that would be what would happen probably, sadly.
Getting like a fine coating from this on my mouth.
Yeah,
Yes. It's pretty thick.
it's pretty. That's like 6.8 as well.
Mm.
It's you could stand a spoon straight up in that. I wouldn't fall over.
So I personally think a moose could probably take a bear.
I think I'd be hoping for the moose, but betting on the bear. I don't know why. Moose are cool, but
It's
I think
amazing how your evolutionary advantage is just to be big as fuck. You know?
yeah, basically, yeah, just be like, well, I'm just so big that and I don't know. I'm sure they would have altercations, but
Yeah.
there wouldn't be sort of that much in it for either of them. I think the diminishing returns would be pretty
Have you
high.
have you ever seen the videos of moose or mice on YouTube and say they get their head stuck in between a tree with their antlers?
No,
And it's just their rotten carcass. No, it's a skeleton.
oh,
And obviously because, it's a free lunch.
Yeah.
Everything's just pecked away at it.
yeah,
And it's
I have not seen that.
it's just a normal head with obviously, and then they've taken the juicy bits of the head, but it's just a skeleton
Yeah.
behind it.
That's quite eerie.
know.
That's weird. And I've never seen that.
I
Poor
think,
moose.
and that happens quite a lot though with deer as well.
Yeah, I don't, and I like deer are really nice, but I'm not certain they're very bright, and I can imagine them getting stuck and stuff. When we were up at the cottage, and I saw a deer, and I don't know if it had either done a face plant or like pulled on a branch trying to eat it, and a bunch of snow had fallen on it, but it was just like covered in snow, like its whole face, with little eyes looking out, like, oh, it's embarrassing. Yeah,
Snow fair.
it's no way. But yeah, we saw so many deer up at the, like, it was like, normally you're like, oh, I'm so excited, and now it's like, oh, you can see like 20 a day without even trying. But I think because it's been a hard, cold winter, they've all come down closer to humans than they normally would be, looking for foods.
It's strange when you see them in the UK because there isn't that much forestation or woodland cover.
No.
So you always seem to see them and you think, oh, they must have like thriving populations.
Yeah.
But they never have that much coverage.
It is weird.
And you never ever barely see them when you're in the woods as well. It's usually they're at the edge of the forest on maybe like a grass plain or
I've only ever seen them in fields, and I've seen them like on the way out to the airport in Edinburgh. There you go quite close to the airport, sort of over a river, and there were a couple kind of hunkered down by the river. It was really weird. They look so out of context to me when they're in like fields, and like, what are you doing?
They're always at the corner of a field, like they're never
they're not hanging out in the middle.
But it's funny that sized animal, you barely see them when you're in Scotland. Scotland's not that large, and there's barely any woodland cover. Yeah, there's just nowhere for them to see them.
There's no deep woods.
You don't really see them that much.
No. And it's like in some years, say up at the cottage, which for context is for any people who know this area, off Georgian Bay in the sort of Canadian Shields, near a town called Parry Sound. So it feels remote, but it's like super not remote. It's like Southern Ontario.
Sorry, but Parry makes what sound?
He goes like, ah. That's the sound Parry makes.
That's why no one's living there.
It's just the rocks and trees are constantly just going,
megaphone going,
It's not even like
no one wants to live here.
Really good sound. It's just like
it's the Parry sound.
The Parry sound.
The Matthew Perry sound. It's just like
that's the sound of too much cocaine. But yes, okay. So some winters you see no animals, just because it's I guess a soft winter, and so they can stay remote. Whereas winters like this one, because I guess it was really cold and snowed a lot early on. We had like -40 days for a while, which is unusually cold. Then they start rocking up to where the cottages are. Most of the cottages aren't occupied in the winter, so they can just kind of stooge around. And we'll see, like, we saw their tracks when we arrived, and they've been sort of coming up and looking at our windows and everything. As soon as you arrive, they stay away from you. But
are they sort of nocturnal deer?
We only see them at sort of like animal o'clock, so like twilight and dawn. Yeah.
They're vampires. We only see them from dusk till dawn. Yeah.
But no, I think they bed down at night. I think they eat in the day and snooze.
It's funny though, because you could be walking around at night in the pitch black in the woods, and there's like a bunch of animals just snoozing somewhere beside you, but you'll never ever know.
Like we had a sort of, I think you've heard this story, but a creepy one New Year's, and we were up there, and we always go for a walk after the bells, the stroke of midnight on New Year's, and we were heading up the road, and it wasn't snowy, I don't think. And so I was walking with my mom and my dad, and my mom got us these hats that have sort of like headlamps on them, basically, because we always do this walk. It's like our tradition. And I got that something's watching me feeling. So halfway to good instincts, I turn around, look down the road behind us, nothing there, and miss 3 probably like brush wolves, so like smaller wolves crossing in front of us, which my dad sees just because his headlight lights up their eyes. And they walked like right across in front of us. Totally missed it because I was like, "Oh, what's there?" and looked in completely the wrong direction. So I'd be a deado in the woods.
But wolf.
Wolves.
We say wolf.
Wilf. That's just a man's name, Wilf.
William Wolf.
Wilfred.
What's a wolf? Like someone I'd like to fuck. A woman. A wolf.
Wolf.
You know, like
gilf.
Yeah. MILF.
Yes.
But generally people like wilfs.
Wilfs.
Women I'd like to fuck.
I think it's just short for Wilfred, is it not? But yeah, and then when we were out, when we came back to the cottage, we could see their tracks. They'd like circled around and checked out the cottage while we were out and came back, and that's
crazy.
It was cool. You don't see wolves there much, and you certainly don't see the big guys. You see the littler guys. But
I've spoken about this before on the podcast, and briefly in passing, I guess, and I think it's kind of people who are foreigners. That sounds so.
Oh, right. Here we go. Tell me about the foreigners.
too xenophobic. People who are tourists
Yes.
and they come to Scotland and they see the landscape and the wilderness and they think it's so majestic.
Yeah.
And it is a sort of barren land. There's no trees because of the clearances, the highland clearances, and they made way for sheep and agriculture, and that's why there's these massive hills, but they don't have any trees on it. And I think that ties into the animals that used to be in the UK as well, like wolves, obviously. Wolves used to be in the UK as well, and bear and boar and all these things, and they're trying to bring these back, and the question sort of begs, like, can we do that? You know, like, we're so used to not having these types of things around.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to go out and little Jessie's, you know, like taking her washing out, and then she gets mauled by a bear.
Yeah, eaten up by a bear.
She's painting her tartan wallpaper. And
as everyone has in Scotland, by the way, for anyone who's never been to Scotland.
Eating her fudge and toffee, you know.
This is getting into like a really weird fairy tale.
Startled by a wolf.
Startled by a wolf. By a Wilfred. Oh, heavens no. Her weird neighbor Wilfred.
Was it Jessie and the wolf?
It is a weird one because I'm emotionally, like, I really think all those animals should be here because that was sort of the natural order, but you can't.
But Canada has the vast openness to it.
And
It'd be
that's
almost
the thing.
cruel to those animals as well to bring them back, I guess.
You can't take things back to square one just by changing one thing. And basically, like, I think, you know, certain areas of Scotland are pretty empty, but nothing's remote per se. And certainly in England, like, you could, you know, get lost in the moors or whatever, but there isn't room for like apex predators there. Like, what are they gonna, you know? And just once humans start messing with sort of balances in ecosystems, like, so how many deer does one bear need and stuff like that, and
sounds
it starts
like a
to
sort of puzzle.
But it like, that's how it would be treated, presumably.
Totally.
And for things to get out of control in either direction, it's so easy.
And the people that know better than you and I, they would work these things out, and obviously it would approach on human civilization no matter what you do.
Yeah.
You know, they're obviously going to encounter them.
Yeah.
And I think one part of me thinks that it would be good for people in the UK to sort of encounter and experience proper animals, and
because for sure.
Basically, we don't have anything that can kill you in the wild here.
No, it always amazes, and it was even probably more so when I was in Ireland because they don't even have any poisonous snakes.
Yeah. Well, we have the adder.
You got one, yeah.
And I've never seen one.
Yeah. No, I've.
It doesn't add up.
One of my dad's very favorite jokes is about adders, but I might save that for another.
I can't even count how many times I've seen them.
I can't even count. So, but yeah, it's just I can't get over that feeling of like you could sleep in like any hedgerow here, and unless a human kills you or like a cow falls asleep on you, like nothing is going to kill you.
Or the long game, you get bit by a badger.
Yeah.
And you get TB.
Yeah.
And you die.
Or you get like Lyme disease.
Yeah.
Did you get Lyme disease
From
here?
yeah.
Like get super tired for a really long time. Yeah.
You get that from the ticks. So do you have ticks?
We do. And Lyme disease is really hard to diagnose, so you could get that and be unwell for quite a long time, I guess. But that's kind of the worst thing. Like even the weather, it has to be kind of extreme. Like the weather in Edinburgh right now would probably totally eventually kill you if you're sleeping rough because it's quite cold.
Yeah.
But it's not like Canada where it's like, oh, you're gonna die in 10 minutes kind of thing.
It's funny, in Alaska there's these 3-month periods where they have their summer, and people always romanticize the native population, me included. You know, it seems like a noble way to sort of live, but you don't realize how much it fucking sucked to live back then. Like,
I was gonna like spoiler alert, the summer sucks.
With Alaska, it's nothing but horse flies and mosquitoes, like thick swarms of these things coming through.
Yeah.
And that you told me that there's a high suicide rate in Alaska.
Because it's the same. I don't know as much about Alaska, but it's the same in like the Yukon and the Northwest Territories, and presumably none of it in Canada. That apparently the suicide rate is a lot higher just because of the incessant flies. And I guess the sun as well, like it's light all the time. And people always say that that's a really nice idea. And I think it is if you're going somewhere to like party. But if you actually just have to live and work somewhere, even the summer in Edinburgh makes me kind of cranky because it's light too much. Honestly, I'm not built for it. It's like, you know, that feeling if you've had a late night, like you've been out and you come back, you're like, oh my God, the birds are starting. Like I've been a very bad person and I must go to bed. And here it's like, oh, it's like 2 a.m. and the birds are starting. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Leave me alone, birds.
That was something I experienced when I was in Louisiana. I didn't realize that the days would sort of generally stay the same length. They're slightly shorter, but not as, you know, long or as short. They just kind of, they don't change much. When it gets to winter, the light doesn't really change because it's quite close to the equator. Yeah. And another thing I experienced was taking it on from the romanticizing these types of things. When I was in Louisiana, when I first got there, I was like, oh, you know, the movies that you see about it, and it's all very atmospheric.
Yeah,
you know, you watch
sure.
The Patriot, you know, you see all these, you know, the deep south, that it's swamps and
it's all misty.
Everyone's camping outside, and there's Native Americans, and it's very romanticized. But then you don't realize how much it sucked with the mosquitoes.
Oh my God!
Like you just go outside, and it makes any of those notions just redundant.
Yeah, you just be completely insane all the time. Yeah, I always think about that.
How anyone survived back then? Oh my God!
It's amazing to me that the first people who settled North America didn't rock up here and were like, oh God, hell no, and leave. Especially like, because I spent a while and the only times I would be back in Canada were during breaks from uni. So it would be the height of summer or the depth of winter. So it was like living on Mercury. It was always either boiling or freezing. I was like, why did anyone live here? Like what? Why are you here? Why are there so many people here?
It's the same like across the world. I think we're so spoiled in the UK.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing really that can piss you off in terms of weather or natural, you know, animals.
Yeah, you might get like a flood or like a badger.
And well, most of us, that's mostly in England, the floods.
Yeah. Knock on wood.
You're not going to get flooded here.
We get some, you know, black ice. And
it reminds me of a Frankie Boyle joke, who's a famous Scottish comedian. And he says, what do you think about global warming? And he's like, I love it. You know, that means that the Scots can sit in their mountains and watch the English fucking drown.
I think I have heard that one actually. Yeah, he's very funny.
It's such a weird word.
I love his he has the weird laugh as well, doesn't he? He does this like it's this weird laugh that sort of his facial expression doesn't change. It just sort of like sneaks out of him. It's like someone behind him is laughing.
He's the Scottish version of Jimmy Carr, because Jimmy Carr has a laugh that does look like it escapes him as well.
And it's the pitch. It's very odd. Yeah, and he has a face like the moon as well, which I find delightful.
But I think most people have heard of him, and any sort of listeners, international listeners, look him up. You know, if you can get past, well, if you're listening to me, that means you understand Scottish slightly.
Maybe.
If you can get past me, then listen to him. He has a very strong Scots, but he's hilarious.
Yeah, he's very funny.
He's a Glaswegian though, so I guess that's more easier to sort of, you know, dilute and think.
I guess. I don't know. I find that one's not the easiest. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like, you know, Edinburgh is just like an English accent basically, but yeah.
Is it you that can't tell the difference between like Australians and British people?
No.
Okay.
I have a thing where I don't really notice accents anymore because I'm used to hearing accents.
Accent blind.
I don't want to go that far. I don't want to offend your last guest by eliding differences between peoples, but because like I've had conversations with my mom where it was like, oh, did you meet so and so at this party? And I was like, I think so, I'm not sure. What did she look like? And my mom was like, well, she's the Australian one. And I was like, I don't remember anyone having an accent. And it turns out I was talking to this Australian person for ages and never noticed they had an accent.
Oh, I got that from one of the guys I was staying with in Austria.
Yeah,
he's Swedish, and he's the guy
Swedish.
Johan. Shout out to Johan. He's probably somewhere in Australia, actually.
Is he?
Yeah.
Huh. Getting a really bad sunburn, presumably.
He got English people and Australians mixed up.
That makes sense. But I mean, like, I would get like Swedish people and like Dutch people mixed up, maybe. Like, not like I can't remember their different things, but I wouldn't be able to guess the accent necessarily.
Would that be racist?
It would be if you then insisted there was no difference. I think that's the thing.
But even saying there's no difference is just sort of, it's not racist, it's ignorance.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I guess if you say then they're worse, then it's racist, basically. Yeah. Like those bloody clog-wearing Dutch people.
What if it came to sort of, they were of a certain colour, different colour?
See, that's the stuff that, unless you're making a value judgment about it, I think it's silly to pretend people are all the same. I think I'm on the same page as that.
I think
we're going too far in that direction potentially. And I don't think ignoring differences does anyone any service, because it sort of implies that those differences are weaknesses, which I don't think is true.
Yeah. Same with this whole sort of third wave feminism movement. Like, we're not allowed to talk about women's being different from men, because it's all seen as a weakness.
Yeah, and I find that such like a counterproductive thing. And I think what happens that's a problem is people say like these things are differences and these are the conclusions. And it's like, well, no, things can be different without leading to sort of inevitable, say, personality traits or whatever. Like, it all just kind of comes down to statistics and likelihoods. And, you know, science can't hurt us, but it's helpful to know it more than it is to ignore it. I finding it's very frustrating. I don't like that the side of conversations that I have traditionally felt kind of more sort of emotionally and morally connected to, which is the left, is now kind of pursuing this level of ignorance where it's like you can't talk about anything.
Do you think any of it exists in an actual real place? Like all the discussion and all the sort of push and all the talk of action and sort of lambasting everyone and this, you know, like chasing people up to their castles with the, you know, torches.
Pitchforks and
Does it actually exist in an actual place? Like, is it something that's exists in the world and then that's how everyone sort of judges the world by it, or is it something that's just a mirage that people are sort of touting and talking about, if you know what I'm saying?
Who's doing the pitchforking?
The left, you know. Are these real sort of issues and things that they're talking about?
Oh yeah, I think a lot of them are. Okay. For sure. I think like talking about like the Me Too movement and stuff like that, like, yeah, that's a real huge issue. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that everything that gets connected with that by someone is part of that issue.
But who got in the way of that? The left.
Yeah, but
the Me Too started off when it was to do in response to Weinstein, you know, and all these things that were going on, and then the left sort of overtook it, and then it just started to eat itself, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess like Me Too shouldn't be a right-left issue. It should be just like, don't treat people like garbage, basically. And that shouldn't, and maybe that's part of the root of the problem, is that shouldn't be a politicized issue. I think it's complicated that now either accusations about misconduct being used to further political ends, or just the fear of that happening is warping things. Whether or not it's happening, I don't know. That's a huge problem. Like, once someone figured out that someone could do that to ruin someone's career just on purpose, or once someone figured out that someone might figure out that they could do that, like so that's complicating how it's been politicized as well, because it's not like left-wing public figures can't be shitheels. They absolutely can.
Well, they're all people.
Yeah, everyone's people. That's the thing. So it's not like,
because left and right doesn't exist.
But I think it's confusing that exactly. It's confusing that movement sort of it's like we can't get away from politicizing things, and the fact that our political paradigm is a right left, and it doesn't have to be the words right or left, it could be delicious and nutritious, or, you know, shirts and skins. Like, it doesn't even,
I'll go with skins.
Big wink to the camera there. I think what was that? I was listening to a podcast recently, and it was when I was traveling, so I've lost what podcast it was, somewhere in the layers of jet lag and soul delay. Yeah. But it was the gentleman, it was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and the gentleman he was speaking to was talking about the fact that a lot of issues we think of as being inherently right or left have often bounced between both sides over the past, say, 100 years. And they're not things we think of as inherently like, oh, well, that must be something the left champions. It isn't necessarily.
Even in the last 20 years, we've seen people who were on the left in terms of their ideology 20 years ago. And now that has now become sort of conservative. You know, and on the right almost.
And I think there's a weird event horizon as well with, say, like libertarians, like, or sort of that genre of people, or anarchists as well. Like there's this sort of weird thing where the extremes of the left and the right kind of meet. And it's funny because a lot of those people I quite identify with. And then I think the other half of what they're saying is complete insanity. But sometimes it's like, you could have people who identify as the same thing and there's almost no overlap between what they believe.
Just to sort of keep it on the line of left and right. I was watching a documentary recently, the past couple of nights ago. It was basically a TV show on Hitler and his evil evil inner circle, as they called it.
That's hard to say.
Do you have
inner
an evil inner circle?
Are you talking about my belly button?
Yes.
That's my evil inner circle.
Goes way deeper than that. And so basically they showed the roots of where Hitler started to become popular and who pushed him to where he was. And it was someone I'd never heard of, and I still can't remember his name.
He's gonna
like,
look it up, but I don't remember.
He was like a famous German poet, and he was on the right. And at that time, there was, in Germany, they were sort of torn between extreme left and extreme right.
Which sounds eerily familiar in terms of where we are now. Not that we're and still democracies.
This documentary, let me just make sure when it came out, because I was surprised by hearing that, because it didn't come out in...
What?
It didn't come out like last year, so then you were thinking that they were trying to aim it at people who might be interested in that sort of thing because it's relevant to today. But I think it was around a couple of years ago, so it was cool.
Different political climate. That's intriguing.
That's crazy though, to think that Germany was going through something that similar that we're going through, you know, as the world. Is someone going to be born that's going to be a Hitler figure, or is it going to go the opposite way, you know?
Yeah, because I think I think it's a good thing to point out that it's a globally that's happening now. Like we have countries simultaneously. One country will elect an unprecedentedly left-wing or liberal or whatever you want to call it politician. Another one will simultaneously elect an unprecedentedly like right-wing. Unprecedentedly, I'm not sure that that's a word, but we'll go with it. Unprecedentedly.
Okay.
Full disclosure, I was at a trade wine tasting today, and I tried 45 wines. I swallowed almost none of them. You tasted
fortified wine?
I tasted one fortified wine. No, I didn't taste any fortified wines, but I tasted 45 wines, and well, I smelled 44 of them, and I drank one of them, and smelling 44 of them was enough to leave me a little blurry. So I've had a nap.
Yes, it's Hitler's Inner Circle is the name. It's on Netflix, and I was just chilling one night after a long day, and it was really, really good just to hear. They tell a side of the story that you don't hear often, and we hear where Hitler was born. We hear what he did in between, you know, joining what was the name of the party? It was like the National Party, and not the Nazi one. It was the pre-Nazi party.
I don't remember.
And the biggest thing that was crazy about it, I was telling Laura about this at the time, was you always hear growing up, when you start to hear about conspiracies and when you get into conspiracies, the big one that comes out eventually is that Hitler was part of the cult, and he was building some sort of, you know, time machine just before the war ended, and that's how he disappeared.
Hellboy, that's what happened.
Hell yeah, boy.
Hell yeah, boy.
And well, is Hitler Hellboy?
No, the bad guy in Hellboy is kind of Hitler.
Could be.
Hellboy is he's awesome. I like him. He's my bro.
Well, it could be Hellboy. Could be Michael J. Fox. Not Michael J. Fox. O.J. Fox. O.J. Simpson.
I'm so confused.
Sorry, I'm very tired.
Because he's got one glove.
One giant hand.
Okay.
Because it doesn't fit in the glove. Sorry, it was a bit of
That
a push.
that was a couple stabs.
That's what OJ said. It was a bit of a push. And a couple of stabs.
And a couple of stabs. Oh my God.
And it was a brilliant documentary, but basically all the occult stuff that Hitler was into and the Third Reich is all legit. This comes from like substantial amounts of actual evidence. It's not just people talking about hearsay. This is stuff that they wrote in their diaries about, and that's what they modeled the Third Reich and the Nazi Party on. Like, they thought that it's all to do with Atlantis, actually.
Which is quite weird.
Basically, there's a superhuman person, humanoid, that was part of
a superhuman. Anyway,
that was part of Atlantis, and those were like the best. They were called the Aryans.
Aquaman.
And basically, the Aryans settled in the Aryan race settled in Germany, and that's what they thought they were as people. They were this sort of the best race out
Fish
of the
people.
Yeah, and they think everything, the Jews, black people, and all the smaller, minorities were trying to dilute that, and that's why they started to think that this is why they need to start kicking them out of Germany.
That's funny.
And it's all based on the occult.
Which in some ways, like, we look at it now, and I was saying this when you were telling this to me at the time. Oh, cheers.
Mazel tov.
L'chaim to life. Got to even the even the airwaves a bit there. Yeah, when you're telling me that at the time, I was saying that I think we now think of the occult as being like sad teenage Wiccans and like people who sell crystals in shops that are, in debt. And
what was that Girl Witch movie? The one with the three of them.
The Craft. I like that.
Of course you do.
I never saw it until I was like in my 20s, so I didn't see it at the time.
That's pretty sad.
It would have been good I didn't see it in high school because I probably would have gotten too into it. But I think like we think of sort of the occult as being basically a diversion or like a subculture, and whether you respect it or belittle it or think it's kind of cool or whatever, we don't connect it with kind of real world goings on. Whereas in the sort of the rise of the occult, I'm thinking sort of like Aleister Crowley, but even back further than that, like when they were into alchemy, like John Dee, who was like a spy master and alchemist and wizard for Elizabeth I and stuff like that. They connected magic with power in a really serious way. So it makes sense, really, in a funny way.
It was funny to me how that was an actual sort of area of study, alchemy. Like, when you hear about famous people.
And they were like, super serious. That was the next big thing. Like, that was the Bitcoin of
Sir Isaac Newton was into alchemy. That's what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I think like he had lead poisoning or something.
Oh, they all had lead poisoning. You couldn't get away from lead poisoning in those days. But no, it was really like, it was where it all was at.
Part of science.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. It was not regarded as being parascientific at all. It just wasn't something that it would be the same way as we think of like finding a cure for cancer. It's like we haven't figured it out yet, but it's out there.
Philosopher's Stone and all that nonsense.
And a lot of it, like,
Not the Harry Potter one.
No,
well, basically, yes.
Yeah, they borrowed it. Harry borrowed it. The ways they used of sort of organizing the universe, like as much as they knew about it at that point, which was quite a lot compared to how much we've sort of learned since then, I guess. Just in terms of the organization of it, a lot of it makes kind of intuitive sense. Like it's quite appealing.
When you read up on it, you start to think, oh, I can see how these people believed in it.
Yeah.
And then you can see how they went down this path of trying to actually accomplish what they thought was alchemy.
Yeah.
Because I think the main focus was turning non-precious metals into gold.
Yeah.
Is that the main focus of it?
And like I say, it's like Bitcoin. It's like, how do we make money out of nothing, basically? Yeah. But yeah, that was a big focus of it. And a lot of sort of philosophy is just about how everything was organized. But that was all kind of leading to the main point of like, how can we transmute like materials into other materials, the headline being gold. Yeah. But I think the occult was pretty serious and scary until kind of the Victoria. And I'm sure, again, there are people who have written like theses upon theses about this. And I'm just sort of making stuff up as I go along. But the Victorian period, and especially like when people got into kind of early photography as well, the occult got kind of domesticated. It got like less scary. It got cuter. There were fairies. It's like that's always the process as we make like
There's
big
still
scary
fairies.
magic into small cute magic.
Still fairies.
Yeah, fairies. You're a series of fairies operating a man suit.
What was it? I heard that supposedly all gold is extraterrestrial.
It'd be great if it was like a non-glorious metal that was extraterrestrial. If it was something people were just like, oh, I have to look up what that is. It always has to be gold.
Yeah, because there's not that much of it.
Yeah, but people think it's really cool because it's shiny and there's not that much of it.
Okay, gold. I'm just making sure. Okay, so meteors delivered gold to Earth.
All of it?
They say yes.
What else did they deliver all of?
They delivered Domino's pizza as well.
Oh.
But it was just all rocks. It was a box of rocks.
It was a box of rocks.
In a circle.
Was it dumb?
You're a box of rocks.
Oh. You're a rocks of box.
So I've been doing this cold shower thing.
Mm-hmm.
So basically at the end of all my hot showers I take 2 minutes. I've worked up to 1 minute.
Yeah.
And that's what I do part of my shower. Every shower that I do now, I do my last 1 minute of my shower freezing cold.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, it's amazing. Like, I've been doing it for the last month, and I've combined it obviously getting back into the gym because my back's been seriously sort of shot.
Yeah.
And I've only just started to get the strength and the confidence to get back into the gym again.
Mm.
And I was kind of just reading up on it, and I was just doing it to see if I could do it as a mental challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Initially, but then I started to realize that it does have a lot of health benefits that are backed. Quotations. This is what every sort of televangelist does. He says, backed by science.
Backed by science.
Everything's
Everything's
backed
by science. There's a little asterisk. And it
But
says,
Neil
like, my
deGrasse-
cousin Eric Science.
Neil deGrasse Tyson does this every morning. That's what I mean.
Oh, okay. I'm sold. Yeah.
I'm joking.
No.
He doesn't do it.
No. Neil.
They turn their backs on it. But yeah, the mental focus that I've incurred by doing this is crazy. Like, just I've been so laser sharp in my focus now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it's to do with, I don't know if it's because you put yourself through something like that. It's something that you don't want to be doing, but you have the mental sort of capacity. And it sounds so, first world. There's loads of people out there that are taking cold
only
showers.
have cold showers or don't have showers at all or don't have water or whatever.
Yeah,
but
you have to take these things from everything that you can, these little sort of wins in your day, doing stuff that initially isn't giving you any gratification to then, it's something I've probably struggled with in my life a lot, is to sort of have patience with things like that.
Yeah.
And this is helping me with it, I think.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing something that's feels shit at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
but then I feel like amazing afterwards.
Yeah.
And for the whole day as well, like the focus and just the tingling sensation after you come out the shower is just crazy.
And regardless of like whatever might be happening physiologically, I think just that process of making yourself do something that you don't really want to do, it's very good to do that. Yeah. I think a lot of people, and it's such a stupid situation to be in compared to what the rest of the world is like, but I think a lot of people who live relatively comfortably have lost that kind of, you feel like you have a right to not have to do anything you don't want to do. And I think like we're seeing that more and more with people who just don't want to do the stuff that they do just have to do.
And is the feeling of discomfort relative,
Yeah, because I think that's like it's good to have these experiences in your life and be like, oh, I thought this would be uncomfortable, or it is uncomfortable, but like it's like not bad in any way, actually. Like I'm in no danger and I'm not being harmed. Like it's good to just get in touch with that stuff.
And usually I would take it from me, this is helping me a lot, because if it wasn't, I'd probably have given up on, you know, the day 3.
Yeah.
I have an instinct for knowing when things work for me and when they don't, obviously, and I just give them up as soon as they're not doing anything. And this one's just continued to give me just so much focus.
Yeah.
And it's just a simple thing as taking it. I'm working up to the whole shower being cold. That's the one that's the tough one. And I know in my head, the philosophy that I'm trying to follow is, if I don't want to do it, that means I have to do it.
Yeah.
If that's something that I'm in my mind, it's the one that's like, I'm good enough just doing the one I'm doing just now, where I do the last couple of minutes of my shower. But the fact that it's entered my mind now as that's the tough one and the one I don't want to do, I want to do it now. Like, but this is it's building blocks, and I'm building up like a foundation of mental toughness again.
Yeah.
And this is helping so much. You know, every day there's things that I say, like, I don't want to do this now, and because I've said that, I do it. Because you know you can do it.
Yeah.
And it's a theme now for me in my mind that when I don't want to do something, I just do it.
It's time to do it. Yeah. For me, it's not like, I don't feel like I experience it like times of being unfocused. Like, I either have full access to my focus or I'm tired and I don't want to do stuff, basically. And usually if I'm tired, I need to sleep, and that's kind of, but I think in terms of like procrastination, I'm such a
sorry about that. Windows is interfering.
Blah, 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 blah. Are we still okay? We're good? It's just Windows going blah, blah, blah. In terms of procrastination, anything that makes me, it's not a discomfort thing, it's an anxiety thing. So for me, it's bureaucracy. Anything to do with like making a phone call, even paying bills that I know I can pay. Like, I know I have the money to do this and it won't be a problem. It's just the process of doing it. Or any kind of online forms, even basically like entering passenger information for flights and stuff. I always put it off, and it makes me more and more anxious the more I put it off. And it's stupid, because the only place the anxiety comes from is my anxiety. It's nothing to do with what I'm actually doing. Like, there are usually going to be no bad consequences to whatever it is.
But this is where that type of thing comes in and helps as well. Because you know that there's nothing going to happen that's as worse, something that you've forced yourself to do it. You know, 5 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Yeah. And it just helps with all these little things in your life. You know?
And you just do it straight away, and then you feel so good about it. But it's so funny what, like, I, you know, think of myself as being a person who's pretty much in control of myself, and then it's just like, oh, here we go again. Like, I'm doing this again. I have no idea why I'm doing this.
I think you think you're in control of yourself.
Well, I mean, like, I think relatively, in terms of like, I don't have a problem with like, usually I'm pretty good at making myself do stuff I don't want to do.
Except use the phone to call something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was on my list of things just now. Bureaucracy and phone calls. Yeah.
What about bureaucratic phone calls?
Those are the worst. Yeah. But like, I'll shake, like, if I have to like make a phone call about like, even like,
that's crazy though.
Yeah, I hate it, and I don't know why. Like, nothing bad has ever happened to me about it.
I used to be the same with not the same as shaking, but I hated phone calls when I was younger. I kind of just forced myself to get through them, and now it doesn't bother me at all.
And I'm just that, like, I've had to do them for jobs even like regularly, and I still never really got over it. And you always do them, but I always feel like about it.
I remember me and one of my first ex-girlfriends, we would have arguments over who was going to call like a pizza. Like, because secretly I didn't want to do it. Yeah. Because I hate it, but obviously because I'm a guy, I was like,
I can do it. Yeah.
I kind of flipped it on her and was like, well, why don't you want to do it?
Yeah.
And it was like, it was nothing at the time. It was just because I was unhappy in that relationship.
Yeah.
There was other things coming out, but I remember just being like, why don't you want to? You know? It's like, I saw how stupid not calling was in her, and not wanting to admit to myself
that it was the same thing. Yeah. It's sort of like the dark side of like, I'm joking unless you're serious, and then I'm serious too. Like, it's like that kind of thing. Yeah, because you just also just want to hear why. Because maybe it's the same for you. Yeah, and I genuinely have no idea. For me, it's just one of those things. And it's
weird
just,
though.
every time I need to do something, I just need to make myself do it.
It must be something to do with some sort of biological trait or evolutionary sort of.
I heard some sort of theory before about the phone thing, and it's something to do with sort of like Dunbar's number. And yeah, you can't read like physical cues.
Because if you're hearing a voice, it's sort of weird if you're not seeing the face.
And I don't feel like I can. Part of it's not, I guess, knowing if I'm receiving 100% of the communication that person's doing, but also part of it is knowing that I'm somewhat powerless to do the communicating that I need to do.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. And then I think a lot of it too is like I've forced upon myself a lot of bureaucratic processes that could have changed my life significantly in terms of like visa stuff, living in different countries. And it's like, you could potentially get an email that would totally change the course of your life in a bad way, maybe.
They're not gonna throw you out.
Well, it's not impossible though. It's like if something weird happened, like it's super unlikely, but it's not impossible. And then you get barred for 10 years.
You personally have to phone up Theresa May and tell her she's a bitch and then hang up on her.
It's tempting. Yeah. No, but like I've been detained before because they weren't sure why I was coming back into the UK. And like if that had shown up when I applied for my student visa, then I could not only maybe have not gotten to do a master's degree, I could have been barred from the UK for 10 years, like that kind of thing. And I was in a relationship kind of at the time and that would have been over. And it's just stuff like that. The compounding effects or whatever as it kind of snowballs, but realistically none of that's going to happen. You just get yourself worked up about what could happen.
True.
So I think it's partly, so I've become to associate that kind of feeling with like,
but do you know how you bypass that?
How?
Do it straight away.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Don't give yourself time to think about it.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things I've learned about doing this.
No, you're absolutely right.
You don't give, it's like a sort of virus when you sort of have something to do, or a fungus, and if you
when you have a fungus
give it
to
time, even the smallest amount of time, it just grows and sort of,
And everything you don't want always gets worse the longer you leave it. That's for sure. So yeah. I'm
gonna have to nip to
skip to the loo, my darling. I'm
Do you like my t-shirt?
I do love your t-shirt, actually. I was noticing it.
So for all you guys watching on YouTube, obviously, this is one of my new sponsors. It's Beast
your
and Bells.
Your t-shirt is sponsoring you? Oh, sorry.
It's one of my supporters.
Yes.
Like my legs.
Yes. I shouldn't interrupt your sponsorship.
So basically, this is like a gym sort of sports wear t-shirt, and they've just started, and they have this one t-shirt, this one design with a black and a white, and it's Beast and Bells on Instagram. So check them out.
C'est très chic.
These are really sweet, actually. Like, it's not usually you find that someone's just started up and it's this kind of quality.
Yeah, they've got like cheap t-shirts or whatever, but no, that looks really nice.
Sorry for the
looks
plug.
Looks good on you. Are they gonna be doing some more designs and stuff?
Yeah, they're sort of working on them just now, but I think they're getting up their numbers.
Yeah,
they're selling a lot.
Yeah, looks gorgeous. I like
nice,
it. Yeah, they're done good.
And hopefully this works.
What are you doing? Woo! Other than I guess we'll find out. Uh-oh.
So yes, if you heard that, or maybe not, it's said Laura's movie synopsis.
Sweet.
And if you would care to join me in talking about Black Panther.
I was going to ask if you wanted to talk about Black Panther.
Of
cool.
Course. Yes. So when did we see this? I had to wait till you had got back from Canada so we could go watch it together.
And we watched it the day after I got back.
I was so tempted to go watch it.
And I would have been super mad at you, and I let you watch all of Altered Carbon without me instead, which we then have to talk about also, I think.
It's funny, when I've been telling people that I had to wait till you get back, it felt so weird. Because I've never been like, you're not like that, and I'm not like that, where we're sort of we have to do this together.
Yeah.
And but this was the one thing that we were like,
because we were both excited about it together, and it just would have been, and then we wouldn't have been able to talk about it, and it would have sucked.
So when I'm telling people, they're looking at me, and I'm just like, somewhat like one of those couples, and they're like, oh, the old ball and chain, you know.
Oh, boo, hiss. I let them do everything else except go watch Black Panther without me. Yeah. Yeah,
it was I was still formulating my opinions of it up until this morning.
I feel like I'm still formulating too, but I'm interested. Like, I'm formulating still yet, but
I genuinely enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have enjoyed it more if I didn't sort of think there were some sort of social and political overtones, not in the movie, but being influenced from what I'm hearing. Not hearing. Like, I'm trying to stay away from the trailers and people talking about it and reviews, but you can't help hear people saying that, you know, I enjoyed this.
Yeah.
There's so much kind of hope for this movie. It was brilliant movie. I think if it would just, it's hard for me to try and see the movie for what it is without, you know.
Yeah, it was because there's so much like headlines of it deserves to be worshipped and stuff like that. I think also a lot of the things that people are totally freaking out about in the film in terms of like race and gender, especially, like, honestly, we really needed that though. I think we needed it proven to the people with the money that a film of that type would make a lot of money. Because it does ding 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 capitalism time. It does all kind of come down to capitalism and like, oh, we can't make a superhero film with a black lead or with strong non-sexualized female characters because no one will go see it. It's like, oh no, fuck you guys. Actually, a lot of people will go see it. It turns out.
Hey, wait.
Yeah.
Shaft.
Yeah, exactly. So
I wasn't just shouting names or, you know.
Yeah.
Adjectives at you. I was the movie Shaft.
I even like a fireplace kind of thing. No. Yeah, so it's hard to get away it was sort of what I was afraid was going to happen with a Blade Runner in terms of the level of like expectation versus.
But that didn't have the sort of the social sort of the Blade Runner.
Yeah,
Blade Runner was more of a legacy. Where this, it was actually
like the significance
to do with
outside
like
of the world of film
as it is now. You know.
Yeah, outside of it being about the film. Yeah. But I really thought it was really good. And especially in terms of all of that aside, like in a vacuum, quality in relation to the other Marvel films, I thought it was one of the most consistently like high quality ones.
I'd put the top 3 for me this year, last year, Would
Yeah.
have been Spider-Man Homecoming,
Yeah.
Black Panther, then Thor Ragnarok for me.
Yeah, and I'm probably
It's
about
because
the
I'm
same.
a Viking though. So.
Yeah. And I'd say it might be for me. It reminded me a lot of Spider-Man Homecoming in terms of the superness themes were really well grounded in real people themes. And I also thought that while they do make it about sort of Africa and race in the film, which I think was handled in a really good way because it's like those are the themes, but it's not the content.
No.
It's like I thought that it was also something that was easily applicable to any people in terms of that sort of like how much do we look after ourselves and how much do we help others.
Yeah.
And I thought that it's not something that you can't relate to if you're from like another race, you know?
Well, that was the funny thing about it when they were talking about how Wakanda, spoilers of sort of small amounts. If you haven't seen it, stop listening.
Just
or
come
don't
see
actually
it. Go see it.
download this more.
Yeah.
Basically, they are not giving aid to the rest of the continent of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked how they put that in there.
Yeah.
It kind of just showed that it's kind of human nature to segregate yourself.
Yeah.
I guess, even though they're all black.
Yeah, it's not, you know, it's not a monolith being black either. And I think it would be racist to say all black people have the same experience, obviously. So it's helpful.
So what did you think of the actors?
I thought the cast was fantastic. I really liked everyone. I think the T'Challa character, like the Black Panther, is interesting because I think part of his vibe is he's like super uncharismatic, but also such a badass. Like it's a weird. He's like that kid you knew in school who was like too good at everything and it's kind of annoying, basically. But he's like such a badass when he's in the suit and stuff as well. So I thought the supposed bad guy, the Killmonger character, was a lot more charismatic actually than he was, which was interesting.
And that's the Jordan B.
Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan.
He had to put that B in there so people.
Yeah, so it's like the basketball player. Yeah, because I got really tired of when I was talking about his character. I couldn't remember the character's name, so I kept calling him Michael B. Jordan. And it was like, this feels like I'm in a job interview or something.
Well, his part in this was a complete slam dunk.
Get out.
It's not just hoop dreams, this acting job.
Get out of your podcast. You're done.
He was a pretty good badass. And
he was good.
It was cool to see the contrast between black Americans and black Africans, you know?
Yeah, I thought that was and we'd read somebody had complained about the soundtrack being hip hop when it's about Africa, about a fictional nation in Africa, but they seemed to really deliberately and obviously use sort of more African music when they were in Africa or dealing with African characters.
It did impress me a lot how they sort of blur the line slightly with it. And obviously when Michael B. Jordan is on screen, they use American hip hop. Yeah. And when it's in sort of Wakanda, it's always sort of African style. Yeah.
And I think it suits, like it works really well, I think. I loved so she's a sort of younger, I guess, up and coming actor, but Letitia Wright, who played the sister. And I loved her role. Yeah. She was great. I'd watch a film about her. Like, I really enjoyed that.
She designed everything, I guess, all the tech that you see in the movie.
Which was talking about sort of inspiring. I hate that word. Honestly, I hate that word. But female characters who aren't just overly simple or there to serve a function within the plot. Like, I thought it was wonderful that she was the brains behind the operation, and she was really good because she was fun as well. She wasn't like a dweeb, basically.
She was probably the comic relief in a way.
She was like light, and she was a lot lighter than T'Challa was. Like, she's like, if you want to go for a beer with somebody, it's going to be her, because I think she's underage probably. She's like really weak,
much in terms of comedy. And
no, but there's a few moments. They're quite human. Like, it's quite. And to me, a lot of the humor in Thor, the closest I came to having a problem with Thor Ragnarok was that a lot of the humor was so deliberate, but it's also so funny, so it totally works. And like some of it's totally ad-libbed as well. So whereas in Black Panther, it was just sort of bits and pieces.
It definitely is a serious sort of movie as well.
Yeah, but it wasn't dark like
Marvel, you know.
Yeah, it wasn't dark. It was like bright and energetic. Yeah.
There was not really any sort of sexual relationships, really.
No, he has like a romantic
Yeah.
kind of relationship with the Lupita Nyong'o character, but it's not really like fulfilled. But it's not. Everyone's too busy in that film for sexy times. Everyone's getting on with stuff, so it worked for me. I mean, it's the same with Thor Ragnarok. There isn't like a big.
Seems like they're limiting that side of it. I mean, I was listening to an interview with Darren Aronofsky, who's directed Requiem for a Dream and
Black Swan.
Yes, Black Swan, and what else has he done?
Mother, unfortunately.
Mother, yeah, I've not seen it yet.
He's doing Annihilation, right? The new one.
So no.
Annihilation's
the guy from the AI one, the robot one.
Oh, right, yes.
Ex Machina.
Yeah. Subtle Google time while you discuss.
And basically he was talking about how he's kind of disgusted with Hollywood now because they make a movie sort of 12A or whatever and they can show all the violence they want minus blood. But
which is stupid.
If you want to show any sort of like, something that's romantic or sexual, you can't show those intimate moments, which is more natural than killing someone.
Yeah.
Which is strange.
I find it very weird. And the sort of double standards with nudity as well, very weird.
Like we really have a weird relationship with sex.
It's completely insane that we think violence is
more acceptable.
More acceptable than sex. It's really weird. I don't understand that at all. I think...
Which, if you look at what's been going on in the news, is not something that we practice.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. There's like, that's a whole little, Fabergé egg of double standards and craziness. It's Alex Garland, is the name of the director of Ex Machina, who's also directing Annihilation. Anyway, side note.
I think my other girlfriend's in that.
Natalie. Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Don't speak her name. No, you can say whatever.
Natalie. I think she's really cute too. It's cool.
I try to say her name 3 times in the mirror, but she never appears.
No, she's like super married, right?
Yes, I know.
I know you know.
She super tells me all the time.
Oh yeah, but Darren, I'm married. Yeah.
But
so for anyone who's confused, there, KP really thinks Natalie Portman's quite cool, and I don't disagree.
I've had like a major crush on her. It's dissipated as I've got older, but that's
as
only due to
gone,
circumstance.
The circumstance of your resentful actual girlfriend, yeah.
But but Black Panther, I thought on the whole, I would say 8 out of 10.
I'd be up there with that. Yeah,
and
I think
I don't know what those other 2 points could be for it to be a 10. I'm not sure what could make it more for me, but
yeah, and I don't know how much it would be if people weren't going fucking nuts about it. I don't know. It's hard to separate that out. But no, I thought it was brilliant.
And the Serkis part, Andy Serkis.
Oh, Serkis, yeah. He's Serkis.
Serkis?
Yeah, Serkis, I think.
The guy that plays
Gollum
and does all the CGI what's it called when they put the stuff on your face?
Like the motion capture stuff.
Yeah, motion capture. Yeah. He does all that, but I think he is well overdue. They can't give him an Oscar for what he's done because I don't think they have that section. Yeah,
which is weird considering how reliant everything is on. And that's one thing I would say about Black Panther is it's very reliant on CGI, but also they're creating a literal actual other like world essentially, so fair enough.
It all feels tied into that world. It doesn't feel like, this CGI seems out of place from this.
And thank God they don't have any CGI characters. Yeah, it works. They don't have any CGI characters. Yeah, I don't like CGI characters. I'm never going to. I can never really believe in them unless they're monsters. I like monsters. But because it's the motion, like it's different, I think. I guess they all are, yeah.
King Kong?
I haven't seen any of the new King Kong ones.
The one that Serkis did.
I haven't seen it.
What about the Planet of the Apes?
Yeah, that's all very good. I'm thinking of like
it's the best.
Justice League, the baddie in that, and
but they're all the whole thing's CGI.
I guess when they're too human, it doesn't work. That's the problem. It's the uncanny valley thing again. Yeah, but even in the new Avengers one, the baddie. I just don't quite like the look of him. Like, he's too human, and so you can tell it's not.
Well, Marvel have always struggled with decent sort of, especially the Avengers, decent baddies.
Yeah.
The first Avengers was this sort of faceless alien
Yeah.
race that were coming down, and they were all sort of, they looked like they were all sort of cloned.
Yeah, and they were all
the
super
same.
boring.
Yeah.
Like, just super boring.
I didn't care.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
and I think maybe that's on purpose when you're trying to get kids to come see this, you know, and not be offended. Like, their parents.
I guess so.
Their
Yeah.
parents not be offended by violence if it's against some sort of faceless genetic
Yeah.
alien.
But I think that's almost worse because it like devalues violence. It's like,
well, we know that's happening anyway.
yeah, but it's like maybe that faceless generic alien has hopes and dreams too. Like, you know, like as opposed to something like in Black Panther when it's all about sort of revenge and like personal conflict. Like, it's, I think that's, we would be better having less violence but higher quality violence in terms of the emotional stakes or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
What would you give it?
Yeah, I'm probably the same. Yeah.
Bloody copycat.
Oh, it's true. I'm right. Well, I'm not gonna give it more or less. So 8.1 then.
I'd give it a 7.5 out of 21 3/4.
I can't count. I can't count above 10. You know that.
So there's a TV series that came out on Netflix in the last couple of months, which I'm super obsessed with, and it's called Altered Carbon. And when I'd watched the whole series, this was like
very quickly.
Basically, I was excited for Laura to watch it because we're very into our sort of futuristic noir movies, and this is my compromise where I got to watch all of this, and then I would not watch Black Panther.
Yeah.
So I took the whole of Altered Carbon in, and it's amazing. I love it. And then I've watched it again, and you've started to see.
And you're watching it again with me, which makes me very happy, and I love it as well. I feel like I'm thinking about it kind of all the time. Yeah, it's so intriguing though. I think in a lot of situations when like writers and creators set up these kind of futures or alternate worlds or whatever, you get all these sort of weird sort of you think through, maybe this is where sort of fan fiction comes from, you think through all these kind of logical extremes of where that world would go. And I feel like in Altered Carbon they actually basically play out all of those extremes,
because every question you've had, like, they're in an episode shot of explaining something that you question. Like, I wonder if they'll talk about this. Yeah.
And then like it's just sort of like, well, if people have that technology, then they would totally use it to do X, wouldn't they? Because humans are like humans. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, and that's the thing that happens. But they're not really showing off about it. It's really thorough world building, I think. And I mean the author who wrote the novel it's based on, and I've read one of his other books and it was really brilliant, and my dad recommended to
so basically
our
the
host.
gist of it for people that don't know what we're talking about is they've figured out how to sort of put your consciousness into a tiny little thing, what's it called, your ED
stack.
Your stack, which is basically, it looks like a sort of like a 50 pence
pog.
Pog basically, where they store your sort of
fidget spinner
consciousness, and they can transfer you to what they call a sleeve, which is someone else, and you can go through like generations and not age, because you're going from sleeve to sleeve to sleeve. And basically they've put this guy who was, and
pause, they can either be different entire people, or they can be clones of yourself as well if you have the money.
They can be female, young, old, black, white, Chinese,
different races, doesn't matter.
It's not tied to your consciousness what color you are.
No.
And basically they have someone who's part of a resistance that they put into cryo, a form of cryo. And he's sentenced to however long in cryo, and then after 300 years someone takes him off ice and then tries to get him to solve a murder in exchange for his freedom, because I think he's on ice indefinitely.
I think it is indefinite. Because
he was such a badass that they put him on, like,
he was like the, I guess, only surviving member of this group, and I guess we can't really go into what they're up to, because you kind of need to not know that until later. And you don't know in the series until quite a few episodes in.
But they are seen as a sort of mythical group as well. There's a lot of myth and legend about what they were and what they did. Yeah, it's like they're definitely, which is I like seeing those, because it's the same with those weird trees, and I like seeing those sort of in this very gritty, seamy sort of science dystopian future, seeing these elements of magic is really interesting. And they're very much always just out of your reach, the sort of meaning of these things, which I like. Especially the tree. Is that what you're talking about? But also just the sort of the envoys and like what their deal actually is in terms of their abilities. Like you never, well, maybe you find out later in this. I haven't seen all of it yet, but I like that they don't make a big deal. I hate when you're watching something and it's like they turn the characters into video game characters. It's like, well, he has like X ability to do this, and then he won't be able to do that anymore. Or he can do this up until that, and then it doesn't work. Like I like that it's subtle. It's great though. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it so much that I'm trying to not eat it all in one sitting, but it's hard. The main character is the actor Joel Kinnaman. Joel Kinnaman, who was the recent RoboCop, which was a terrible movie. Hated. It was terrible. It wasn't necessarily him though. I think it was just the direction they went in with the movie. Yeah, I just didn't. I don't think I finished it. It was me. The original RoboCop's iconic. It's great, and like iconic. I can understand seeing that and being like, "This is brilliant," but there are aspects of it that are now silly. Yeah, but they didn't handle it. Yeah. You know, there's so much depth to the first one. Like, just in camera, you know, the cinematography and you know the story, and it's great. Yeah, and it's a kind of manic weirdness, which I really like, and they basically just pictured it in the remake. Yeah, but Josh Kinnaman, Joel Kinnaman, he's brilliant in this. He's really, and I didn't, because I saw him in Suicide Squad. I was also like, well, this is a very boring gentleman. Is he in Suicide Squad? Exactly. What? Yeah. What? Yeah, he's like the government guy who's babysitting the Cara Delevingne character. Yeah, and you're like, well, this man is miserable, and now so am I. Which I guess he was playing his role well, but it's just, he was such a bummer in that. But so when he was cast in this, I was like, well, that looks really good except for him. But he's so good. Yeah. He's really, really good. And his character's basically an asshole. Yeah. Well, several assholes, I guess. But don't we all? But he's so good, and he's very like, he gets the sort of the humor in there, but you really believe he's a scary dude as well. It's good. And the sort of the woman that plays alongside him, Ortega, Kristen Ortega. I can't remember the actor's name now. Martha Higareda. That's it, Martha Higareda. And she's basically this sort of Mexican police lady, future police lady. Yeah. And she's kind of watching Joel's back because the sleeve that he came into. I don't know if you're allowed to say that yet. It depends if people have seen it. You don't know yet. I was just gonna like word it my own way. Like, the sleeve that the stack that he's come out from. She knows that he's a terrorist. Okay. You know, from the past. And he's a bad man. So she's kind of hanging around. Yeah. But she's brilliant. Like, she's one of the highlights great. Of it. I like her. There's like always one actor in things who seems to be like almost in a different thing than the others. Like, just your kind of level of spontaneity. Yeah. Like, I guess that's just good acting, but she seems to have some sort of timing as well. Yeah, she's so like off the cuff. I just love her. She's great. I really like her. She's a big part of it. If she was some dope, it wouldn't come off the same way. If she was just like, you know how they always have to make badass women no fun, basically, or just dudes, dudes in girl bodies. But she's like definitely a lady, but like very badass and lots of fun, but like a real human. And it might be down to the writing then, because every character in that seems like that as well. You know, they all have sort of this little streak of everyone's very nuanced, but I think it's just really good casting too. I think whoever did the casting for that. What's crazy though is I was kind of put off about watching this just due to the reviews that came in about it, and I was like, ugh, this is going to be quite terrible. But Rotten Tomatoes gave it 64%,
which I genuinely don't understand, because I think it's really really good. Like, I don't usually, you can see like, well, I can see how someone would not think that was good, but like I can get not liking it if it's not your cup of tea, but it's not like something I can see critics being like, I mean, this is bad.
It wears all its influences on its, you know, sleeve
for sure,
but it does it almost as brilliantly as anything that's came before.
Yeah, it's all really well integrated, and like it for sure owes a lot to like Blade Runner and like The Matrix and William Gibson. There's a ton of William Gibson in there, but in a really intelligent way. And like, you can't, those are the gods of science fiction. Like, you can't pretend they don't exist. Like, we have real technology because those things happened. Like, people think about the world differently because of those pieces of work.
And there's so much depth to it in terms of religion and gender and politics and
race. Like, it's like, what does it mean to be human? It's everything. So it's all in there. Yeah. And there's nothing is clanged with me in it. Nothing's like, in terms of even kind of social conscience. I mean, we heard some complaints that it's like whitewashed, and I completely don't understand that, especially because it's like, okay, so the main character, he was born, and he's, I guess, half Japanese, half like Polish or something, Eastern European, and he ends up Slavic. He ends up sleeved in a white guy's body.
Well, no, he's been through several sleeves.
And the sleeve, can I say that? Am I giving too much away if I say?
Which one?
Well, basically, the sleeve you meet him in, initially you assume is his original sleeve because of the race that it is, but it's not necessarily.
No.
And I think like it has an incredibly diverse cast, and basically only, I'd say, a lot of the bad guys are white, but it's because the bad guys tend to be the rich guys. And I think that that's not racism. That's about racism.
Yeah.
In terms of, it's not racist casting or writing. It's about racism. It's about the fact that the rich people would be the people with the white bodies.
And like I've said before, all great sci-fi noir reflects society as it is now, you know, in some sort of way, and that's how it does that. Like,
that is what would happen from here.
Which rich guys are white, you know.
And either it's because the guys that became rich were white, or because the guys who became rich wanted white bodies, because we associate them with power and success. And that's not about them being better. It's about what we associate them with. And I just hate when people can't differentiate in terms of the world that's being shown as science fiction is not the world the author wants to happen. It's the world the author is using to discuss the world we're in now with, if you don't get lost in the little prepositions there.
I mean, we got to put this down to the original material, but there is some amazing characters in there, like Poe.
Oh, he's great. And that's the weird one, because apparently he's a completely different character in the original. We got to get that. But the acting is so good. It's like a lot of really subtle kind of nuance.
Joel Kinnaman's off to do the Hannah TV series now, which is the movie. When was that released? Hannah
came out in, I know I saw it in 2011. Maybe it came out a little before that.
Yeah, so basically it's a movie that came out, was it a book series?
I don't know from whence it came exactly. But
okay,
it just
2011.
Okay, so there we go.
It's basically about this little girl who was raised by her sort of father in the Finnish wilderness, and she's trained all her life to be the perfect assassin. And then her father sends her on a mission. I think, well, is it part of the story he dies? Or is that a spoiler?
Well, it's like not surprising he dies, but.
So basically, they're making the TV series of that, and Joel Kinnaman's part of that now. He's off filming it.
I really liked Hannah, so I'm excited for that.
Wasn't really a huge fan of it.
No, I liked it. I loved the integration of the soundtrack in the film and just the visuals of it. It's I think it's Chemical Brothers who've done the soundtrack. And I liked the Saoirse Ronan, the actor, the wee Irish girl who's not as wee anymore and who's doing very well for herself. I really liked it, but I also like reception theory here, but I watched it when it was basically the only film I had when I first moved to Edinburgh, and I just needed something to watch like in the hostel every night for like a month.
Yeah.
And yes, I watched it over and over again.
You stayed in a hostel for a month when you got here.
Yeah, on and off. Like I went and visited friends in London. I stayed in 2 different hostels.
Which London?
England, not Ontario. Yeah, I couldn't find a flat for ages. It was way harder than I thought it would be. When you're a foreigner, you don't have a UK bank account. You can't get a bank account unless you have a flat. You can't get a flat unless you have a bank account. So it was a bit of a nightmare.
So basically you're facing what most homeless people in the UK are facing, you know?
Yeah.
When you're trying to get somewhere, when you're trying to get an address, when you're trying to get a job. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's not
Yeah, exactly. You can't do any of the other ones
a lot
until you have.
A
Yeah.
lot of people don't realise or choose to ignore sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate that
always-
thing. Ugh.
You always see comments online and people are like, just
Just get a job. Yeah.
And it's like, it's not as easy
It's
as
so
that.
stupid.
Especially if you've been homeless for a while.
Yeah.
If you don't have a residency address, you know,
yeah,
then
it's
you can't get a bank
so
account.
you just can't get
and then
your
you
foot
can't
in the
get
door.
a job, you know,
Yeah.
and there's lots of things
Yeah.
tied into it.
And it's like, it's really hard getting a bank account in the UK, like for one thing. And
Not for me.
not for you. Well, it took me,
I'm a
I
true
couldn't
blood.
get a bank account until I'd been in the UK for 4 years, probably, which made everything really hard.
So what were you doing before that? Did you just have your Canadian bank account?
Yeah. And
Shit.
I could get money out of my Canadian bank account without paying.
Charges,
Yeah, without
yeah.
charges. That otherwise I wouldn't have been able to do it. And
It's not the reverse.
Hmm?
I got charged a shitload when I was staying
Yeah.
in Toronto.
Well, that's usual, but it was just because the card I had
fucking
fine with
Royal.
that, yeah.
What is it?
TD, Toronto Dominion Bank.
No, the other one, the CBC.
Oh, did you have CBC's
CBC.
radio? I don't know. RBC,
The Royal one, yeah.
the Royal Bank of
Canada.
Croatia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Charged me.
I got paid in cash for jobs, and
You what?
yeah,
Did you not pay taxes
did
while
pay-
you were here?
I did pay taxes.
Bloody
I did pay
immigrants.
taxes.
You didn't have a bank account. You
Yeah.
got paid in cash.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like you were
I
paying
declared my taxes. I didn't have to pay taxes here because I wasn't considered a resident. So I paid taxes in Canada on my UK income.
Going in the middle of Princess Street and just saying, I pay taxes.
We should definitely not
is
talk
not-
about my taxes on the podcast. Let's totally not do that. Let's move
You
on.
can't be so scared.
No, we like really shouldn't.
Okay. But you do pay taxes.
I do pay taxes.
I know you do.
And it's none of anyone's business. But I do pay taxes.
No,
And
you-
you know I pay taxes because I was very, very cranky and anxious about paying my taxes this year.
I, on the other hand, pay lots of taxes.
Loads of taxes. He's a regular Wesley Snipes.
I wish. I don't know. I wish I was Blade, I guess.
He's super cool. He doesn't seem like he's fun either, though. Again, category of people you want to go for a beer with.
Did
not
Blade
really
pay
Blade.
taxes?
I do not think.
Do you
Blade
think
lived
Blade paid
underground
taxes?
with Chris Christopherson. Blade definitely didn't pay taxes.
Arguably one of the greatest.
That's my film synopsis for this episode is Blade is Wesley Snipes lives underground with Chris Christopherson.
Which, if you'd saw that on just that premise,
I would so watch
would
that.
go
That
see
would be
that.
weird. Yeah. That'd
So
be really
basically,
weird.
he's just serenading Wesley
Yeah.
Snipes with his old
Old-timey. Yeah.
songs.
I really want to see that directed by Taika Waititi.
No,
And Taika Waititi plays like a robot or something.
YTTC.
Why though?
So yeah,
Any other items on the
no,
no?
I think we're pretty good this
We
episode.
good? Yeah.
I'm getting pretty hungry actually. So,
Oh yeah, I forgot about dinner. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been good.
Yeah, it's been great. Good
Well,
to be back.
actually,
Hmm?
it's been a bit longer in between podcasts because
Yes.
I've taken a week off social media and
Mhm.
such like, you know, which was good because it's good to sort of have a refresh, you know, on my system.
For sure.
Sometimes you don't realize how much all that is starting to like, you know, infiltrate your mind.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's very good, I think, to take a break and just know that you can.
Yeah.
It's kind of like booze or whatever else is super
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Because it's just to know that you're not sort of getting addicted or going
Yeah.
down a path that's sort of bad or negative.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do these, like a week off from Facebook, and I deleted all the apps off my phone.
Mm-hmm.
It except Facebook. Do you know what? Samsungs,
Yeah.
the app is part of the system now. So
Really?
you can't delete it.
Well, that's creepy.
I know, that's crazy.
Whoa, that's really creepy. It's always usually like stupid chess or something like that with Apple, but
Tell me about
like,
it.
I don't need chess. I know my computer can beat me at chess. You don't need to remind me.
And checkers as well. They always have checkers.
Do they?
Chinese checkers on your phone.
Oh, I don't have that. I've never had that.
But yeah, it's been a great week. So this is why I've kind of had a bit more
Been-
time in between podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel good for it.
Good.
Definitely.
Doing cold showers and no social media. And
No,
Yeah.
I've been in warm showers while I've been on Facebook.
and I lost like 32 phones that way, and I've learned my lesson.
And yeah, I'll probably plug my Patreon. So just
Yes.
now I'm doing a limited time offer of a limited
Whoop,
edition t-shirt. And it is my, on previous podcasts, anti-semantic. I'm glad I got that right.
Yes,
My-
I'm glad you did too.
My anti-semantic t-shirts. And basically, if you sign up to the $10 tier, which is £7 in UK money, and subscribe to me, then you automatically get one of these t-shirts, which is not
Ooh.
part of the rewards. It's just something I'm doing just now
for fun.
to spur up some.
Yeah,
Yes.
because we threatened to make this t-shirt before, so
Yeah, no. So we need to use it somehow.
yes.
And yeah, so go check that out on my Patreon, and that's patreon.com/IAMKayPee.
Yay!
If you're a fan of the podcast. If not,
or if you're a weird kind of masochist, I guess.
I'm anti-semantic.
Yes.
And yeah, so if people want to check out your arts and your
Yeah, I've got a mainly art, wine, and travel Instagram, which is Laura_Z_Hope.
or Z, that's the
Z
translation.
if you're American. Yeah.
Or neither male or female person.
I suppose so. Yeah, that's sort of I have a website as well, which is laurahopeartist.com. That's my main.
Did you say you'd updated it recently?
I did, yeah. I updated with some new work and a blog about new work. So
Cool.
yeah.
Which I have to go and read, actually.
Oh, sweet, yeah. You probably know everything that's in it, but there you go. Yeah.
But I've said this before on one of our first podcasts together, and if you want to see someone who's really good at art, then I urge you to go and look at a lot of stuff on our website. It's really good.
Cheers. There should be more updates soon. I'm working away, so.
It's very stylistic. Well, it's your style, you know, that's the way it goes. I always find it funny when people can technically really draw, but then they choose to sort of follow their own style as opposed to just go down the route of replicating and just being able to draw what they see and be really good at it.
Yeah, I think
It's
that's sort of the
harder to
goal of.
It's harder to find your own sort of what you want to do and what kind of appeals to you.
Yeah.
And that's something that probably comes out of the master's degree that you did, is that you technically can draw and are brilliant. You know, like some of the stuff I've seen you just replicate is amazing, but you also have a fantastic style that's nothing like that, you know.
And I think like a big part of for me kind of becoming who I wanted to be as an artist, or well, it's always a work in process, but getting to the point of like I'm starting to feel good about this was like letting go of trying to do things the way I thought a serious artist would do them and just doing what felt good to me, and doing what I was comfortable with, as opposed to I had a kind of schizophrenic thing where I had like a sketchbook and I would doodle in like one kind of style and I'd work on like paintings in another style, and it just didn't. You can tell when someone has made work that they're not enjoying making. And once I found what I was enjoying doing, it's very different. But yeah, you need to also, people see sort of work by contemporary artists and they're like, my kid could do that. And it's like, well, yeah, kind of, but unless it's actually like, you can get bad art, of course, but you need to go through the process of actually knowing how to look and see and organize a composition and all that.
There's a whole process that goes, it's like when you play guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Or learn martial arts or boxing even.
Yeah.
You can copy someone like Floyd Mayweather in his style, straight up try to do, because he has a very distinctive style.
Yeah.
But you haven't put in the reps of actual like solid technique.
Yeah, there's nobody home under there. Yeah.
He fights with his sort of hands in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Some people fight with their hands down and they try to emulate that.
Yeah.
But they started off fighting sort of tight with their hands up at their head, and then because they know they've went through the basic technique over years and years and years, then they develop their style of having their hands down at their sides. But people try to emulate that. They don't go through the hard process of learning to keep your hands up at your head so you don't get hit in the face. They just try to emulate having your hands down to bring people in, and they get knocked out. You
can't reverse engineer any of that shit.
And I guess it's the same with what you're talking about. Like,
good metaphor.
You have found your style, but you've went through so much process of learning, you know, the technique and the sort of basics and shading and perspective and relativism.
It's almost like you have to rule everything out first. It's interesting.
And then you can do something that's abstract, you know, or is very stylistic, you know.
I think that's a really good metaphor for it, actually. I think a lot of people don't really understand that from the outside of art. Sort of like, it's not just about, if art was about making stuff look like stuff that already existed in the universe, we could have stopped having art when we got cameras. Like, we would have been finished art. So
okay, on that note, it was great having you on, and I hope everyone's enjoyed this episode.
Me too.
As I have.
Me too.
And have cold showers, you woke fucks.
Arrivederci.